Well, good afternoon, Scott Baker.
Good afternoon, Mikey Ames. January 3rd, time for another edition of Lead Better. By the way, I should just point out, January 3rd, if you've already fallen off of your resolution, it's over. You should pretty much give up for the rest of the year. Your commitment to those things is really low. Commitment is actually kind of what we're talking about today. Field note number 1668, identifying.
It was just one cookie, Scott. It was just
That's it. Yeah, but that's the slippery slope. We are going to talk about a slope here, though. So, the headline: identifying the levels of team member commitment. And so, this is for the coach, the leader, the team. How are these people really on my team? Are they? How committed are they? You can hear the halftime, talk. Are you for us? Are you with us? So in that, I think we have to kind of analyze, like, what does it mean to be all in or all out, or is there some slope in the in the middle there?
Right. Okay. So in my mind, I'm thinking, why are we talking about this instead of levels of consensus? Right. Because consensus are something that is it a different group of people that we're talking about? Is it?
No, I would say
from the leader's point of view.
I look at that. You can tell me, because I know you love the levels of consensus. This is something we talk about a good bit. Consensus is kind of like, are we in agreement about this project, this strategy, this idea? This idea of commitment is more about, are you committed to this thing that we're doing, like big time? I mean, meta, like beyond if we even actually got to, like, before I even tell you what the strategy debate is going to be about. And so I think that's really the issue, right? It'd be kind of like using a sports team metaphor. Are you one of the Panthers? I'm just using that because it's the mascot of my daughter's school. And then now you say, I'm a Panther. And say, okay, well, then this is what the season is going to look like. This is what the game today is going to look like. This is what the play, and this is how the offense is going to work and the defense is going to work. But you've already decided whether you're committed. Are you part of it or not part of it? Now, the issue is that leaders are often seeing this as a binary. Are you in or are you out? And the field note is saying that there's a slope here, and a leader is moving people along that slope. And there's actually sort of 5 different stages of the slope that we'll walk through.
Right. Well, the stages feel very similar to the levels of consensus. And maybe you can help clear up for me why it is that it's not. So at the lowest level here is a commitment is really compliance. Team members just perceive that they have to. So execution is like just a decision for them to just click the task off on their list. So there's one lower level in the consensus building, which is saying I need to actively stand in the way. Like, I have so little consensus, I have 0, and I need to actually like try to sabotage this because I think that we're all gonna perish if we don't, if somebody doesn't, right? And right above that level, so there's nothing that's a corollary for that, but right above that level is the idea of like, I'm not going to stand in the way, right? So it sounds just like this lowest level of commitment that we've just described here. Compliance produces half-hearted execution and often leads to surrender when obstacles get in the way. And so that sounds like that next to the lowest level of compliance, and it is or consensus, I should say, and it is, in a sense, you would see that there's a huge overlap between the two. But what are we really trying to identify? So what I'm guessing is, in the top 2 levels of consensus, like, we've decided that we're already going to go into it, and at this point, now I'm going to ask, how committed are you actually? But maybe I'm not going to be asking that question. I just asked you for your consensus level, and that might have been like a straight up question before we even make the decision.
This is the difference. You ready?
Yeah.
Consensus is boring. Commitment has some energy to it. Right.
No, and it really does give me the question that says, you've said that you're level 4 or 5 on compliance or on consensus, right? But now that the decision is made, how can we increase your level of commitment? Is a completely different equation for a leader.
Yeah, and this is just me. I would take this as kind of, I think of that consensus as who are the people in the conference room who are trying to make a decision around something problematic.
Hmm.
And I think this, you think that, she thinks this, we're going to do this, we could do that. And then we're like, okay, are you good with that? You could go with that. Great, good. Now we've got 10,000 other people that work for the organization.
Right. Okay.
Right. Now we go out and we're trying to kind of explain to everybody, this is what we're doing. Right. And now I have a division and I have 17 different managers and we're looking at 700 people in my division. And I'm leveling and saying, it looks to me from what I'm hearing that about half the people on the team don't think this is going to work at all. And therefore we're going to get very half-hearted sort of commitment from them to this new endeavor. So we're either doing a bad job explaining it, we've got to do a different way of unpacking it, we need to listen to them. But it's more about like the full range of the army. And is everybody committed to the endeavor and ready to march, not just the people that cooked up the battle plan.
Right. Okay, that's a great thing. So, and that's a great reminder as well that understanding where people's consensus level is mostly about pre-decision making understanding, and whether or not you need to build more consensus if you like, but you're not necessarily inspiring people's commitment level at that stage of the conversation.
Yeah. Right. Now, real quick, let me go through, because you talked about compliance and acceptance. Let me hit the other ones, and then you can go back and unpack them. Agreement, right, is where we were. And then responsible is that shift on the ladder when you say, I not only accept this idea, I'm responsible for, I feel like I have a part of ownership of this direction that we're going. And then the last stage is the idea of identification, meaning that it's not just like I'm responsible for making it happen. It's like, oh no, this is actually who I am. This is actually the way this organization is. This is what I signed up for. I love this. Like, this is who I am. So the direction is woven into me now, as opposed to just me like accepting what I'm supposed to do.
Right. And in internal communication strategy, we as leaders should probably be creating this kind of identity with your task and with your role as soon as possible. And I suppose that there's a bit of a danger in that as well, because if your rollout of whatever initiative that you're doing that includes the all 10,000 employees kind of stating their commitment, it's probably only going to be 10% who fit into this identity level, right? Like, I feel like this is my job, and for the next year, this is like everything that I'm doing. So I'm going to wear the buttons, I'm going to wear the merch, whatever T-shirt you're going to give me that says that I'm this kind of a 10%er or whatever, that's important. But when you're building that kind of level, you need a certain number of people who are going to take on that identity role. Otherwise it feels like nobody, right?
Yes. Right. Yeah. And even then, and part of the thing is like, well, why is this important? Like, why are we talking about consensus? Why are we talking about commitment? Because we know that anything that we do individually, we do in teams, we do in organizations, that actually doing that thing and having a chance for that thing to land, to get some traction, to have some success, to make an impact is very, very difficult. And so the odds are stacked against you in any kind of a circumstance. And if there is half-hearted consensus, if there's a low level of commitment, well, you've guaranteed that it's probably not going to work out anyway. Right. That if you're actually going to do something, you need full commitment from everybody. And you gave me one of the best examples of it, because you could be very talented. You could have a strong identification with your team, and it could still all fall apart, which was what you were just looking at in terms of the college football playoffs records.
Right, right. No, yeah, we were just saying that of those 8 teams in the college football playoffs that had buys, it turned into like a 3-week bye for most of them. And then here, just, from the going into the weekend, we discover, 1-8 is the record. So 7 of those teams who had a bye, a privileged bye, by the way, they earned the rest. So
good players, good teams. Ostensibly, you would think, fully committed, great consensus on the spirit of the team, but it's hard to hold that together, right? Without a constant level of, and that's where the idea of just like being engaged in the battle sharpens you and keeps you activated. And I think that's the thing that I was just trying to say is like, why is this field not important? For the very reason, it's not that these people weren't committed, but it's like, it's stacked against you in terms of who's going to win, right?
Right. Okay, so how often are you creating buttons? Like, at what level do you think is it a large enough initiative where you feel like, let's make the merch, right? Let's actually create the T-shirts for those identity people to actually wear. Is that something? It feels like if you're doing that once a year, it might feel a little bit technique-y, right?
Yeah.
That tactical thing needs to be rolled out sparingly.
I don't know that I'm against it in every circumstance. I know that I always liked from a book I read years ago by Pat Lencioni called The Advantage, where he was like, no T-shirts, no bumper stickers, no sweatshirts. And that
now, was he saying it because he felt like it was overused? If it's the first time you're
no,
doing
he just think it didn't work. It was actually a net negative. And there are many people would be like, okay, I'm off no way, right? Now that this is happening this way, it seems like a cult.
Well,
right?
No, that's exactly how I feel, because it's kind of funny. When I came into the Dallas area, listening to the sports stations in the area, there was one station in particular who talked about P1. Like, if you're a P1 and I'm a P1, yes, you can be a P1. And they never explained it. So it's like they created this identity, but they didn't.
Lingo.
Yeah, and the identity was something I couldn't figure out what it was at all.
Are you going to leave us hanging? Did you ever figure it out?
That's me leaving you hanging is part of the way I'm telling the story on purpose, because I felt left hanging for weeks, and I'm like, I'm a fan of this radio show, but I have no idea what it means to be a P1. Like, what is a P1? All it is so they created this identity, and they talked about it all the time, but they didn't explain it, which made me want to, like, well, what is it, right? So there is no bumper sticker. There's no like heavy-handed explanation, but it created this thirst in me to be like, I want to be identified as a P1, even though I have no idea what a P1 is. What in the world? And then I don't even know. Right. I think a friend of mine was saying something in conversation, and they said, having nothing to do with the radio station, they were like, oh, I'm a total P1 on that idea. And I'm like, okay, please explain to me what that means. And they were like, well, it's lingo having to do with this radio station. I said, I know. What does it mean? And he's like, it's position 1 on your radio. Like, if you dial in your radio and you program the first channel. Yeah,
right. Because that mattered. Some people listening are like, I don't know what you're talking about. No, that mattered when you had your favorite radio station in the car, what you would hit.
Yes. Exactly. And so that identity was something that I was already, so there was something magical in my brain that worked that said the identity existed, but the bumper stickers and the merch and all that kind of part of the communication, they didn't do that on me. They just said this identity existed. This magical first place fanness group exists. Are you that kind of a fan? Which kind of created this weird kind of competition in me, right? So no bumper stickers, back to Lencioni's point.
Yeah.
No merch, but this identity still existed.
Well, the identity and the way that in that sense of internal communication, which was what that book was about, which I know a lot of people are so excited to read books about internal communication and organization in organizations. But the point that he was making in that book was, it's really just a matter of continually communicating with clarity. This is what we're about. This is who we are. Again, the Godin, people like us do things like this. This is what we're doing. We're doing it this way. Here's how we do it. This is why we do it. This is what the change it creates in our customers. If you like the kind of creating that kind of impact on people's lives, and we would probably like to do this kind of work if it's creative, and you just continually talk about it, you're always energized about it, and you don't have to create sort of gimmicky things to get people in line, because they're just like, yeah, I found the place.
Right. I think a lot of times in large organizations like this, people don't want to be marketed to. And so the principles of your marketing team kind of drawing in fans from the masses have a tendency to like make this transition into the internal communication tactics that they use. And I think a lot of people get leery of that because they can see it a little bit more. It's like, no, this is not supposed to work on me. So be a little more authentic.
Yeah. And, and like you've seen me, like we have, well, we'll get into the details of it, but we have very few phrases in all of admired leadership, millions and millions of words that are inside our AI, hundreds and hundreds of admired leader behaviors, and 100 and plus of those are in our subscriber catalog. And in there, very few frameworks, like not a lot, even like today in a field note of here's acceptance and compliance and responsible and all of this. We don't have a whole lot of that because it's more about like, are you doing this? Are you trying to get that done? Here's what this looks like. Let's give you an example. Here's what the best leaders do over and over and over and over again until it's baked into you, right? So within, all of that, we have little things that pop out and we have a way that we describe something as kind of a drip process. You hear that in the business culture. Ours is a little bit differently defined. And so at one point for the whole team, I bought little baseball hats that had a dripping faucet on it.
I wore mine just yesterday.
Yeah. And so it's more of an inside lingo thing than it is like, are you on the drip team? Right? It's not. It's more of a like, it is to bring it to mind. It might actually spur a conversation with somebody. Right. But it's not to be like, an evangelist in some heavy-handed way. So now, in the end, I think that if you see yourself as a leader who says, all right, there are going to be people on my team who have this sort of idea that I'll go along with this. I'd like my paycheck. And then you have people that go like, I guess it's okay. I've seen it happen and I've seen other ideas introduced and we'll see how long these guys are around or whatever. And so they move up to this acceptance or agreement. And then occasionally you get them up. But you as a leader, can you be the kind of leader who engages people and moves them along so that they actually get to that place where they're like, yes, I get it now. This is what I was looking for, right? I am identified with this. And then you actually have a chance to win because again, that's this, what's your plan for success? And I need as many people on the team to be fully believers in the strategies that we have to win as possible.
Right. Okay. Well, fantastic. Thanks very much. We'll talk again tomorrow.
All right. Good luck, Bobcats, I guess.
Well, they've been far out. It's just
okay.
My Texas loyalty is about who I am.
I see. Okay. I wasn't sure if that was. Yeah.